I took refuge in my sister church, escaping powers of darkness. I was in the prayer room hiding from evil powers that were after me. I was resting when I saw the ground tearing up and a hole open. Immediately I saw countless ants invading the prayer room. At that moment I heard a voice behind me in the prayer room. The voice told me, "Don't come close to these ants, step back on the corner." When I moved back I noticed the presence of a chair in the corner of the prayer room. The voice that spoke to me came from this chair. Later I came to understand that it was the pastor chair. No one sit on that chair, for the pastor sit on it. When I got closer to this chair I felt like it moved. One more time I heard a voice emanating from the chair telling me to move further away, yet I could not see the person seating on that chair and talking to me. The sound and power of this voice coming from this chair was hitting my ears powerfully. I moved to the other corner of the prayer room. I kept wondering about the voice coming from the chair. I was confused and troubled. Back then I was really thin because of the pressure and threat of the world of Satan over my life. At 3 a.m. I stood observing the mysterious chair. When I moved around the door of the prayer room observing the compound of the church, I began to contemplate the church and I noticed that the roof of the church was removed, and when I looked at the sky, I saw demonic serpent, snakes and anaconda that were flying above the church. Upon these flying creatures I saw a humanoid being that were riding these creatures of hell. As I was observing these creatures and paranormal phenomena, I heard behind me the voice emanating from the chair telling me, "I will show you mystery in this church." I replied, "Who are you?" But he did not respond, and I wonder. Finally I called an intercessor and informed him that someone was talking to me from that chair, but I don't see him. He told me, "Brother, calm down, there is nothing. You were instructed to stay indoor, so try to sleep. The pastor will come tomorrow for you." When it was around 3 a.m. in the night, I look outside the prayer room. This time around I saw massive angels standing on top at the 6th column of the wall of the church. They were resplendent with great light. I said in my heart, these are the angels of God that had been fighting against me. Whenever I was sent to destroy God's children I came face to face with them. Surely they have come to kill me. These bright angels were colossal and gigantic, and I could see their huge feet, and they were extremely tall, I mean many meters high. I saw that where they were standing was like white mist and white cloud, and the place was filled with glory. I was scared and I called the intercessor because of fear. Brother David told me, "My brother, just sleep. These angels that you see have not come against you but to protect your life." I was reassured and went to sleep. In the morning I was invaded by a long line of ants. I tried to fend them off, but they entered my body and they began to crawl all over my body. I heard a voice telling me, "Let's see how you gonna deal with this torment you will suffer." I was screaming in pain, taking off my clothes and running all over the church among men and women. When suffering this pain I felt demon pulling the chains that were attached in my body. This torment and persecution was unbearable. When my mother came she saw me in pain running all over the church naked and she cried. Quickly she took one of her loined clothes in order to cover my nakedness. When I remember all this I conclude that no one will ever love you like your mother. Mother, have another heart. This torment lasted 4 days. In the 6th day I was with my mother and we were about to eat. I had food in my hand and I was about to place food in my mouth when I saw a dwarf demon showing up before me. He was holding an arrow and a bow. He pulled back his bowstring and was about to shoot me, and the dwarf demon told me, "If you dare to put food in your mouth to eat, I will shoot you with this arrow." Since I was hungry, I ignored the dwarf demon. I was about to place food in my mouth. The demon told me, "Go on, I am waiting for you to eat. If you dare to eat you will see, but ignore the threat of this demon in order to eat." At that moment I heard a demon outside the church saying, "So you don't listen, they are telling you but you don't listen." This demon was holding the chain that was rolled on my hand and extended outside the church, and this demon threatened to pull my hand that was rolled with his chain. Since I could not move my hand I threw the food in my mouth, and immediately the dwarf demon shot me with the arrow and I was reached by the arrow. I fell to the ground agonizing and screaming. My mother asked me what is wrong. I said a dwarf demon just shot me. When the demon heard me talking about him, he took his bow and arrow again, and he said, "You dare to speak about me again, I will shoot you." At that moment I felt the chain that was rolled on my body being pulled by the demon that stood outside the church. I screamed in pain and said, "Mother, I have chain that is rolled all over my body, and they are pulling these chains. I am suffering." Suddenly, I saw 3 more demons landing before me. Each one of them attached me with chain that was rolled all over my body up to the level of the neck. As a result, I could not move. I was immobilized. When they pulled the chain, I fell down on the ground. When I fell, I saw these demons laughing at me, and they told me, "Now we're gonna pierce you with our javelin." I saw these demons piercing me on the neck with a javelin, and they told me, "For the moment we have only pierced you with this javelin that was hanging on my neck, for they did not pull it out." When they let loose the chains, I stood up. Immediately a demon hit the javelin that was hanging on my body. As a result, I felt excruciating pain. My mother told me, "Who are these people that are persecuting you? I cannot see them. I have no problem with nobody in this life. Why is this happening to my son?" In truth, my mother should have been invoking the name of Jesus in this kind of situation, instead of talking in the air. I was on the ground exhausted because of the torment of demon. The following day, which was women prayer, I got the visit of the pastor wife, who was received by my mother in the prayer room. As my mother was talking to the pastor wife about my situation, I was seeing things that the eyes could not see. Finally, I saw the image of the man that was talking to me from the chair where the pastor sat. This character that was a resplendent image was speaking and giving instruction to people that I could not see. I heard him saying to people that I could not see, "Bring another blood in order to replace his blood. Bring more blood because his blood is not good." Since my eyes was focused on the character seated on the chair, my mother asked me, "What are you looking at?" I said to my mother, "There is a man seating on this chair, but I don't know who he is." The pastor wife looked at the chair that was vacant and told me, "There is nothing, and it's just God mystery." The pastor wife and my mother continue their talk. As they continued to talk, the resplendent character of light stood up from the chair and lifted his hand. This character was tremendous light. When he lifted his hand, I was able to see his hand that was great light. I looked at him and wonder, "Who is this?" My mother asked me, "What are you seeing? I am worried about you." The pastor wife said to my mother, "Don't mind him, let continue to talk." Then the resplendent man said in loud voice, "You must change his blood. Afterward you must change his body. When you have changed his blood and body, I know what I will do." When this man of light was speaking, I could hear steps of many people rushing and responding to his instruction like in an emergency or intensive care. He told them, "Now begin to inject him with blood, but first empty all his blood." At that moment I felt a sting of syringe like when a doctor do injection in patient. I said, "Mother, something is happening. The man that seat on this chair is giving people order to inject me with thing." My mother exclaimed, "My God, what is happening here?" The pastor wife said to her, "Don't mind him, just continue to talk." While this was happening, I heard demon outdoors saying, "All right, you will see what we will do to you." Then they pulled their chains that was rolled on my body. I was thrown on the ground. Thank God there was nobody behind me. In the meantime, I heard the Lord that was seated on the chair giving instruction to his angels that were rushing. At that time the pastor wife told me, "Brother, it is time to pray. Now close your eyes and don't open it." Immediately demon told me, "You dare to close your eyes, we will take your soul. Don't listen to her." At that moment I felt injection that was administered in my body by the angel of the Lord. He kept telling his angels to administer treatment to me. Then I felt a hand touching my feet. To my surprise, the 2 chain that was rolled on my 2 feet were broken and I felt loosed and free. The pastor wife told me, "Now close your eyes for prayer, don't open your eyes." When I closed my eyes, I heard the resplendent character that was the Lord saying, "Transfuse him more blood." At that moment I decided to open my eyes to see who was touching my feet. To my surprise, I saw a golden man with a lot of hair. There was eye contact with him and I closed my eyes because of fear. I said, "Mother, there is a white and resplendent man here performing operation on my body." As the prayer continued, I felt like released from the chain of demon that were rolled on my body. I said, "Mother, I am feeling a little bit better." The prayer ended and the pastor wife was gone. In the night I could not sleep. As I continued to live in this prayer room, in the night I saw demons coming against me. They came with a diabolic bird that was instructed to capture me. When this bird descended he seized me on the head and I screamed to my mother. I said, "Mother, you will not see me again." My mother said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, it's not happening to you." At that moment I saw that I was rising, because the demonic bird lifted me up and flew away with my soul, and suddenly I went into coma, which lasted for 2 days. During that period I was unconscious and could not remember anything. When I came back I said to my mother, "Did I died?" She told me, "You slept for 2 days." Later on, I was visited by the cherubim of Satan called Heavy. He told me, "You have failed to do some effort to reconcile with us. Instead, you made the choice of hiding from us in this church. Now I will scatter this church and you will see." Straight away this angel of Satan entered my body. My eyes became like that of an animal. I became extremely angry and strong. Suddenly I broke the padlock of the church. I began to break all the instrument of the church and the chair and everything, for I lost control. I could carry extremely heavy things and it was light for me because of possession. What was strange is that I was not injured and I felt no pain. After breaking everything I was there breathing like an animal. People came and surrounded us and they wanted to take me to mental health asylum. I was often out of my mind for 4 hours, causing trouble walking naked in the street. And whenever my conscience came back to me I was stunned to see that I was naked and I was running back inside the prayer room to hide my nakedness. During the church service I was losing my mind and causing trouble in the service. I was there around the pulpit dancing and my mother was running after me. On that day after scattering the church service, when I came back to myself I saw that I had cut my mother's blouse. I said, "Mother, forgive me, I don't know what I am doing. I am losing my mind and acting unconsciously, and I am dying. Where is the pastor of this church?" My mother told me, "You were dancing all over the church, strange dance." I understood that these were demonic dance. I was talking to my mother when I saw a serpent coming out of my back. It was a huge snake. He began to vomit bones that were human bones. I saw bones of hand and feet. After vomiting all these, I saw the face of this snake turning to that of human, and he told me, "Have you seen how I vomited this victim? I will return in your body in order to swallow you like that man." At the moment my mother placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "Fear not, my son, God will act." Immediately I heard the slamming of the gate of church. When I looked I saw the pastor entering, and there was an eye contact between me and the pastor. This snake told me, "Look, if you want me to forgive you and let you live, you must agree to offer this pastor to us as human sacrifice." I replied to the snake, "I won't be able to do it. You're gonna have to kill me. I have reached the end of the road. I prefer to die instead of offering more people in sacrifice." Brother, when there was eyes contact between me and the pastor Timothy, that entered the prayer room, the snake asked me, "Why are you looking at this pastor like that? Do you know each other?" At that moment I saw the pastor moving his hand as if he was arranging the shirt. As a result I saw that the movement of his hand released a spark of light like an explosion, and quickly the snake demon entered my body, moving down to my feet, and he went out of the church with a slam and a speed like a bullet. Then I began to feel like someone was cutting my genital part. I panicked and ran quickly inside the prayer room, where the pastor was, for whenever he come to church he goes first to the prayer room before preaching. When the pastor saw me he looked at me and said, "Leave him alone in the name of Jesus Christ." When the pastor said leave him alone, something tremendous happened. All the chains that were rolling my body fell to the ground. I felt devices of the devil that were on the back of my head disappearing. I felt my stomach that seems to have been deflated and empty of stuff of the enemy because of his word. Then the pastor told me, "Now you can go to attend the service." Later on, the pastor joined the service and began to preach. The message was short on that day, and after meeting mothers of the church the pastor entered the prayer room and came out with a rod, that he always take with him to the mountain and bush when he retreat in prayer. When he came out I saw mysterious things. I came to understand that if the devil operate paranormal, there is also mystical operation from God. If unclean spirit enter human, the Spirit of God also enter human. The pastor went out of prayer room and he was holding a rod. The Bible said that Aaron had a rod, for each leader of the 12 tribe of Israel had a rod, that symbolized power and authority the Lord had given them. The rod of Aaron has produced leaf because it had life. The rod of the man of God must have leaf, for this is a symbol of life. God has priesthood and we are his priest, and the priesthood of God work and produce fruit. When the pastor went out of the prayer room, I saw that he went through transformation and became gigantic. He was walking like a giant with heavy steps. Then he lifted his hand and said, Jesus Christ, I hide this child, for they will seek him, they will not find him, but they will see your blood when they will come after him. The pastor said, Lord, I placed him inside the Red Sea and they will not see him, Lord. Then the pastor lifted his rod and he hit the ground, and then he drew a square on the ground, and he said, My God, it's me Timothy, you said I will invoke you and you will hear me, your son. Then the pastor told me, My son, from this day onward, you will live, eat and sleep in this square that I drew here. This is your place of security. It is under the Red Sea, which is the sea of the blood of the Lamb. What happened in the Red Sea is that the Egyptian chased the children of Israel and they were submerged by the wave of the sea. These demons that are after you today, you will see them no more. They will be submerged in the Red Sea of the blood of the Lamb. On that day when I step in that square that was drew by the pastor, I felt like I had entered a place covered by veil, and when I sat on the chair inside that square, I began to hear the noises of water like the wave of the sea, as if I was underwater. I said to my mother, I can hear noises of water inside this square. When the pastor had left, Brother David, an intercessor who was with me right from the beginning, said, My brother, since you are not yet delivered, the pastor has drawn this square to protect you from demons that are looking for you. Just make sure to always stay inside this square. It was this way that I began to live in the church. In this square inches the middle of the church. One day I was in the church inside the square. I was seated when suddenly I began to see like images of people up in the tree. I said, Lord, is this unclean spirit again? I was contemplating these images with fear. I wanted to tell my mother that I am seeing things, but I felt she would be frightened. As I kept looking at these images, to my surprise I saw a humanoid figure emerging. This demonic figure was hooded and was staring at me with determination. This hoodie demon stood there looking at me for many hours without taking action. I called the intercessor Brother David and told him, My brother, I am seeing a demon that is standing there for hours observing me. Brother David told me, Fear not, my brother, they knows that they have lost you. This demon is surely powerless. When it was really deep in the night, I saw this demonic figure rising up in the air. He was holding a trident. As he was rising, suddenly I saw a being of light rising and following the demonic figure in the air. When they were in the same altitude, I saw that the being of light that was the angel of the Lord standing opposite to this demon. They were face to face and they stood in opposition. It seems to me that they were in confrontation and dispute, when suddenly the being of light exploded, a bright and intensive light that flooded and illuminated the place. When this explosion of light happened, the hoodie demon had disappeared. Then the being of light descended to the ground at the gate of the church. I did not see the demon again. I kept watching the being of light descending and he moved toward the pulpit of the church. Brother David asked me, What are you watching like this? I told him I saw a radiant figure that chased away the hoodie demon and this man of light is standing around the pulpit. The intercessor told me this must be the presence of God. On that day I slept like a baby. The following day in a dream I saw two people that came to see me in the church. They told me three things. Firstly, don't be sad. Secondly, don't be angry, and thirdly, don't worry. These are the law you must keep. In the morning I told my mother about these messages from the dream. When the pastor came that morning, I was quick to get to him so that he would pray for me, and he did just a short prayer and said the Lord is in control, for he will act in his own way. I was not reassured. I said to my mother, Why is this pastor doing short prayer about this grave situation? I am doubting him. He is too simple and does not look like a powerful man. He is dealing with this situation with lightness. On that very day in the night, I was heading to the toilet to pee when I heard the voice of the one sitting in the chair of the pastor in the prayer room. He called me and told me, Turn around and fear not. Immediately I felt fear leaving me. Then he told me, Don't criticize my servant and don't minimize my servant. He is my servant, for I chose him. I went to my mother and said, Mother, I heard the voice of God telling me not to minimize his servant. Mom told me, You see that the Lord heard your word of criticism against his servant. Do not say it anymore. I was still living and sleeping in the church in the perimeter drew by the pastor. I kept saying to myself, before getting home to collect my mystical book to give to the pastor, I must be sure that he is powerful enough, otherwise I will go visit other secret order to renew my power. As doubt began to prevail in my heart, I began to disobey the instruction of the pastor. The square of protection he drew for me became annoying, for I had to seat there, yet I began to spend my days out of the square of protection. Whenever the pastor saw me away from the square of protection, he told me, "You are not following my instruction, you are disobeying my rules." Over time evil thought began to invade my mind to the point I began to question the power of the man of God. I said, "How come the pastor has a rod? He has a mystical chair in the prayer, and he is able to draw a square on the ground and there is manifestation. This church must be satanic, for these are ritual." I remember one day before prayer meeting, everybody was working to prepare the service and I was watching them. Brother David told me, "You cannot be watching, you have to do something for God. You can help move the chair of the Father." At that moment I moved the chair of the pastor and I sat on that chair. Immediately this intercessor became alarmed and aggravated and he told me, "Why have you sat on the Father chair? No one seat on that chair." As these brothers continued to prepare for the service, they were murmuring about what I had done. When the pastor came, they informed him and told him that I sat on his chair, and they said, "Pastor, why are you keeping a Satanist in the church? He has to go, he is mysterious." My brother, godliness and priesthood is not always visible. The Lord was formula and the Lord has called us to priesthood. This pastor had a chair for when a man of God is committed to sanctification, purification and consecration by setting himself apart. The Lord will give him a chair. As a priest of the new covenant we have taboo, precept and ordinance. There is power in the chair where the leader seat. The chair of this pastor was sacred because he was sacred. When a priest sanctified himself, when he is holy and consecrated, even his clothes become sacred and holy. That is why the woman of blood was healed by the Lord garment. The presence of God was there in that chair in the prayer room. I was in the prayer room when I heard a voice, the Lord, who told me, "Why are you disobedient? Why are you not keeping my instruction? Why are you not listening to me?" When the Lord was complaining, I felt the room being filled with people who were his angels, and I went out, for the Lord was complaining. As I continued to live in this church, the pastor continued to pray and minister to me. He told me, "It's not the time to go home though you want to." In truth, I was not happy to stay in the church anymore. In the end I decided to run away from the church. On that day I took disposition and I ran away from the church and I went home. When my mother saw me, she screamed, "God, what are you doing here? What have you done?" I lied to my mother. "It's Pastor Timothy that authorized me," but my mother did not believe. My younger brother said, "I don't believe that the pastor told him to come here. His deliverance is not complete and there are still paranormal phenomena in this house." When it was night I slept, and while I was sleeping, I was hit with a wood on the back. I woke up screaming and everybody was awakened in the house, and my mother called the pastor. The pastor said, "I did not tell him to leave the church. He acted in disobedience. Before dawn make sure to bring him to church. He should not sleep." And when I looked out I saw the compound surrounded by demons. In the morning we went back to church. The pastor said you had entered into distraction by going home. Then he gave me a series of prayer which we did over time and I was completely delivered until today.